I just finished reading last night at midnight exactly, Johnny Steinbeck's new book.
Oh, my word.
Have you read it?
Oh, my word.
My goodness.
Oh, my word.
But what that book has painted to me, I mean, I've read many times about, the 60s, the 80s, the early 90s, and the violence that took place. As a broadcaster during that time, how difficult was it? It was such a delicate period, and I cannot imagine how broadcasters navigated that environment.
One of the key lessons I learned when I moved from print into audio, which is a much more difficult job actually, is that you cannot pretend to be happy when you're not happy. You cannot pretend to be sad, when you're not sad, etc., etc. You've got to feel the audience.
What's the latest book you've read twice in recent time, in the last 2 years?
Look, I can tell you one book. There's my producer.
Oh, there's Gary.
Hanging out with Clement
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Time for our Hanging Out feature, and I'm really excited this morning to be hanging out with a veteran broadcaster who used to work for this very radio station. She was probably surprised finding us in a new building because we've moved from Gwen Lane. We're now on Friedman Drive. But her name resonates with a lot of you who are also book lovers. She has written 11 books herself. If you listen to her show, you will know her for her laughter, her compassion, her intelligence. And I was so excited to see her walking into studio because I've listened to her for so long. And that's the thing about radio is when you listen to people on radio, you think they're your besties and you think you know them at a personal level, and you don't. But that's the beauty of radio. Jenny Crwys-Williams, thank you for making time for us. Good morning. Thank you for coming in.
Well, thank you for inviting me. And the studios are so posh, I'm looking for the shower.
Well, it's on your left. Well, I mean, we moved here. How long have we been here? About 2-3 weeks now? 3 weeks. Our new studios, which are so beautiful and posh. And it's just been fascinating. How does it feel being back at 702? After how many years?
Oh, I think I've been away for about 8 years, 9 years.
8 years, but you've been on air. I mean,
I've been on air a little bit.
You've been interviewed. You've been called a number of times.
Yes,
so we've still heard the voice. Are you well though?
I am absolutely blooming, and I've got over my heart attack this morning when you said 11 o'clock, and I thought, oh no, I've got so much time. I think I'll do my nails, and then suddenly I got this panicky message saying,
Yeah.
Get in the car and come. So here I am.
Yeah, 10 to 11. Oh, not 11 o'clock. Oh, it's good. It's good to have you. So I didn't know you were born in England.
I wasn't.
Where were you born?
Johannesburg.
And then England?
Well, I married an Englishman.
Jeez. And then did you ever live in England though?
Yeah, about 15 years.
Just for 15 years. And
Yeah.
then Zimbabwe came in when?
Before that.
Before that?
Yeah, when I was a schoolgirl.
Okay. So you were born in Johannesburg, and then there was living in England, there was living in Zimbabwe. How was that experience for you of these 3 different countries, just juxtaposing and contrasting South Africa to Zim and England?
Well, my father was an electrical engineer, so he worked on the mines. He was electrifying the mines in Zambia. So we were transferred to Harare. And so we moved up to Harare, which is where my secondary schooling was. And then I met a handsome pilot. And naturally, I love men in uniform. I'm sorry that you're not. But, you immediately want to undress them because they just look so gorgeous. Yeah. And as long as they don't have tummies, we need to get rid of men in uniform in tummies.
Well, some people find that really hard, Jenny.
No.
They're like, uniform in a tummy?
No.
No?
Uniform.
Okay. Must it be like well-fitted?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because they've got to come off.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so you met your handsome pilot in uniform?
In uniform.
Yeah.
And then I got married in Nairobi, and then we went to the UK to live, because that's where his work was.
Okay. So coming back to South Africa then, you started with 702 when? I mean, you've done a lot of other work before 702. Was it in the early 90s, late?
Yeah, it was the late 80s. And, South Africa was really interesting at that stage, and it was chaotic, if you remember remember. And
Well, I wasn't there, but yeah, I've read a lot about that area, that period.
Are you going to tell me you weren't born?
No, I was born in 1990.
No, that's so horrid.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
That's why I never say it.
But I've always got on well with younger men. I mean, I really have.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I mean, I've related to you. I mean, but that's again another thing is you appeal to a wider audience.
Yeah. Well, I think that you have to have fun, and I think the audience also wants to have fun, but not non-stop fun.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can be pretty damn serious, as you know. I came back to South Africa, and I was a stranger, but I did have family that were in the media.
Yeah.
So, my uncle was a journalist, and I've loved newspapers all my life.
Yeah.
And so that was my entry back into newspapers in South Africa.
How was it being a journalist at the time and also on radio during such a delicate period? I just finished reading last night at midnight exactly Johnny Steinbeck's new book.
Oh, my word.
Have you read it?
Oh, my word.
My goodness.
Oh, my word.
I'm still in shock about the many things that I have read, and I'm so glad I'll be talking to him on the show next week, Tuesday, on Mandela Day about the book. But what that book has painted to me, I mean, I've read many times about, the 60s, the 80s, the early 90s, and the violence that took place, but never has it been so raw and told in a manner that impacted me so much. As a broadcaster during that time, how difficult was it? It was such a delicate period, and I cannot imagine how broadcasters navigated that environment.
Well, I think we all did it in different ways. But one of the key lessons I learned when I moved from print into audio, which is a much more difficult job, actually, is that you cannot pretend to be happy when you're not happy. You cannot pretend to be sad, when you're not sad, etc., etc. You've got to feel the audience. And I don't know how you do that, except you get into a car, you listen to early morning radio, you get into a car and you come, and somehow or other something is happening. And so you've got to say what you feel. And I think coming into work in the late 80s and the early 90s, you had to say, I am so shaken, I hardly know how to use a microphone today, because this is what happened. It could have been Boy Patong or Sebekeng or any of those. And of course you were thinking, who did it? How did it happen? The families that are devastated and whatever. And you can't pretend. So you have to key into that. But then you also have to break away. Because, I mean, I remember reading stories of people in World War II in London in the Blitz, where there was a high death rate, and the terrifying, planes that came overhead dropping bombs and everything. The women still went dancing. I mean, the soldiers went dancing. There were places underground where you could go dancing, and women, there wasn't enough money to buy new lipstick, so they would melt all the little bits of their lipstick that they had, and they put it into a sort of a fridge or something approaching a fridge, and so that they had lipstick to go out when they went down. People still live through the most terrifying circumstances, and so you have to reflect that, but you also have to be lighter. And I guess books can do anything for you. They can do anything.
Absolutely.
You can laugh, you can cry, you can be, as you have been with Johnny Steinbeck.
I laughed, I cried, I was angry.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, he took me through so many emotions.
But I mean, the books that we've got at the moment, Johnny Steinbeck's book is long-lasting. Justice Malala. I mean, Justice Malala's book. I just fainted when I read it. It was so wonderful. Really and truly wonderful.
I need to get to it. I've bought it. I just need to get to reading it. I can't wait to check it out. 011-883-0702. It's the Hanging Out feature this morning, and we're hanging out with Jenny Crwys-Williams. And if you want to send me a WhatsApp voice note, send it on 072-702-1702. You've got a number of favorite songs.
Yes.
What's your most favorite?
No, it's like saying which is your favorite book. You don't have one. I mean, I sent you, I thought, four lovely pieces. You choose. You choose.
Ed Sheeran, Brenda Fassie, BB King's, Wongile Kumal. Okay, I'll let Abel choose. Abel, hit us.
Good morning, Clement and Jenny Crwys-Williams. It's Tembile in Glen Vista. How delighted I am to hear you interview Jenny Crwys-Williams. what I can say is right now we have two minds that I find extremely interesting. And across the spectrum, from someone who was born in 90, it's true, it's horrid, but to a contemporary of mine. And I'm delighted. I'm just delighted, enjoying. Our current fave is Clement. Jenny is my all-time fave as well.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
Isn't it just absolutely lovely?
Being a 90s baby is horrid years, but Jenny did say he's always liked young.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that at least works. Why do you like that song so much? You and I were going crazy listening to it.
No, I mean, it is just, I just come to, sometimes I think people, they get into their car and they go to work and they're angry. They're angry or they're upset or whatever.
Yeah.
And you listen to that and you just are not angry and you're not upset.
Yeah.
And you are just calm.
Yeah.
I was once on air with Jeremy Mansfield. We shared a show for a year and then they stopped it because it was too naughty. and it really
Jeez,
was.
What were you guys discussing?
Well, you know. And the thing was, it was a challenge because it was my show.
Yeah.
And then they put him in the middle of it for an hour, which meant that we couldn't discuss what we wanted to do. And then I had to go on with my show afterwards. So he would come into the studio and he was the master of timing.
Yeah.
And he would come in and he would say, well, what were you eating last night? And I would think, where is this going? Where's he taking me? I don't know. And that
You're just going along.
But there was one day, and it was in the midst of a lot of tension.
Yeah.
And we were talking about something, and we were laughing and laughing and laughing. And then a guy phoned in, and he said, "You guys," he said, "I'm having the best time of my life, and I've just driven into the car in front of me." So we said, "Well, that's 702, isn't it?"
Wow, someone drove into somebody because they're having so much fun.
Yes.
You know what? I thought you were being weird about your uniform thing, but a lot of the listeners are like, Clement, Jenny is right. Men in uniform are doing the things.
Yes.
But as you said, it has to fit them properly. It
Oh,
can't
yes.
be like...
And their uniforms and then their uniforms.
Yeah.
SAPS uniforms don't cut it.
Really? What's
no.
the sexiest for you?
RAF.
RAF? Oh, yeah?
Pilots.
Oh, pilots.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quite nice.
Traffic?
Never.
SAPS?
Never.
Okay. Pilots it is then. I'm sure there's someone who said nurses. For him, it's nurses in uniform.
Yes, but then they've got to have short skirts.
Yeah.
And then that's what he's talking about.
That's what he's saying. Hi, Clement and Jenny there. My most favorite radio presenter ever. So vibrant, energetic, fun, intelligent, and wonderfully knowledgeable. What else does a man want in a woman? Lovely to hear her voice again on 702. That's a message from Carl in Parkview. Another one says, Clement, Jenny became my darling. Listening to her voice. She's an English master. If only she can help me with my writing of my experience book in a work as a woman. Please send my regards there. That's a message from Tuli as well. That's beautiful. Let's listen to some more WhatsApp voice notes that have come through.
I just wanted to say, this is Rudy, that listening to Jenny Crwys-Williams takes me back to a time when 702 radio was still interesting and informative and engaging. These days it's always just bad news, and I really miss that. Thanks for bringing that to us for all of those years, Jenny.
Thank you.
Clement, thanks for bringing Jenny. She is and she has always been one of my favorite radio personalities. I enjoyed mostly while at 72 his literature corner. It always made me read a lot of books. I wish she was still recommending books. I always followed the books she recommended. Enjoy your life, Jenny. We miss you a lot. Thanks, bye. This is Zakes.
Do you still have a book club?
I do lots with books. Yes, I'm very involved in the book world.
Yeah.
And I actually am reading a book at the moment, it's not out, by a former RAF pilot and how he came to not be a former RAF fighter pilot. But I mean, at the moment, there are 4 or 5 South African books that have come out this year, mostly from one publishing house, which is interesting me. And everybody should be reading them because they are just so fantastic. I mean, you'll be saying exactly the same thing when you've read Justice Malala's book.
Yeah.
So Johnny Steinberg's book, it is for fainting. It is. You don't see the country in the same way when you finish that book as you do when it started.
Yeah, and I couldn't put it down. I literally couldn't put it down. What a beautiful book. If you want to check it out, please go get a copy. We're going to have him on the show next week between 10 and 11 o'clock on Tuesday. I'm very excited to have the conversation with him about the book. It's such an important book. And yes, it tells you a love story of Nelson and Winnie and the shenanigans and the drama. But it also tells you about some key historical significant things that happened in this country that were so valuable to me that I didn't understand deeply, and I do now because of the manner in which he tells those stories. Jenny Crwys-Williams, she's in studio with us, and we've just been getting to know her better, just having lots of fun. We played one of her favorite songs earlier, Ed Sheeran and Andrea Bocelli, Perfect Symphony, which is a wonderful, wonderful song. I'll play another favorite of hers in a moment. But let me first go to some of your calls coming through on 011-883-0702. Nicole, you are in Pretoria. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Clement. Jenny, hi. It is wonderful to hear you on the radio again.
Oh, thank you.
I want to take you back to a memory. And I think if I mention it, you will recall it. Miriam Makeba's birthday. A little 7-year-old who I called and I said, my daughter can sing the click song.
Yes.
And she sang the click song, and the responses were phenomenal after that. And just to tell you, she is now a 22-year-old doing her honors degree at university and has her own YouTube channel and is still singing.
Wow. Wow.
How fantastic. How fantastic.
Oh, that's
I started it off, Clement. She was quite shy and didn't start singing, and I said to her, Colette, sing. And then he just burst out laughing.
Oh, what a beautiful story, Nicole. Thank you for sharing that. She's 8 years old at the time. When she sang, and now 22 and doing her honors.
Time waits for nobody.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow. Khotatso, you're in Hyde Park. Hi.
Well, sitting opposite me is a legend, and I'm talking about Percy Tucker. Now, for those of you who don't know the name Percy Tucker, he's the man who basically invented CompuTicket. And, I mean, CompuTicket was ahead of its time worldwide, wasn't it, Percy? It was at least 15 years ahead of its time. Can I tell you the story? Tell us the story.
Khotatso, you're brilliant.
I guess I don't need to tell you that I'm a big, big fan. In fact, if your former producer Gary's nearby, he'll tell you that I talk about Jenny at the social events pretty much everywhere. And I think Jenny's brand of radio just still... I think it's just part of my DNA, you know. It still resonates with me because I hang on to every single word Jenny says. She's the only person who could probably read from a washing machine manual, and I'll be there in awe.
And listening attentively to every word.
Absolutely. I adore you, Jenny.
Thank you, darling.
Thanks for calling, Khotatso, in Hyde Park. Here's some of the WhatsApp voice notes.
And just so nice to be hearing Jenny's voice. I moved to Johannesburg when she was still on the airwaves, and she became the new voice for me in Joburg, meaning that it's a new city that I'm living in and a new voice that I'm hearing. And it was so lovely to listen to her in the afternoons. And I have many memories of just driving in the car and even engaging with her, sending through messages and things like that. So thank you, Jenny, and your English and your love for books just took me to a new level.
Good morning, Clement. Jack from Pretoria here. I want to suggest that you simply call that show When Two Worlds Collide. It's a memorable version of your program, and keep it up. Jenny is a legend. Thank you.
Goodness.
Hi, Clement and Jenny. I just thought I'd reminisce about Jenny's final farewell party luncheon that she had at 702. I was fortunate enough to get an invite, and I took my father with me, my elderly father, and the whole way home he had tears in his eyes, remembering stories, remembering people, and he'd had a couple of glasses of wine as well. Yeah. So it was a very emotional trip home after Jenny's farewell party, and we absolutely loved it. And I think he also mentioned to me that Jenny had flown with an airline, and that's what he did for 30 years. So he had a fairly strong connection, well, what he thought was a connection with Jenny. She was on his radio every day when he was at home, retired, and yeah, just incredible memories. Nice to have you on the show again. Bye.
Oh, thank you.
Wonderful. What's your most memorable interview or moment on air? Do you have those? I mean, when you've done radio for so long, that must be a difficult question.
I keep seeing people that I've interviewed on television, and they're big people internationally and everything, and whatever. There's so many of them. But the one that you work hard for every single interview, as you know, because people can flush you out if you haven't, done your work. But the one that I sweated over was Bill Clinton. And he brought out his memoir, and so had his wife. And his wife, actually, I think, was in town. And anyway, I applied for an interview and I got it. And my producer at that time now owns a bookshop, and it's Love Books. Her name is Kate Rogan. Wow. And she was, my producer. And the two of us were sweating because he was late. And then he finally came on air. And I had listened to other people interviewing him, some of the big names in Europe and whatever. And they all concentrated on the blue dress and the stains on the blue dress. Mm. And you could hear him just closing up like that. So he was courteous, but they got nothing out of him. And I think he thought he was going to get more of the same. Here we are down in the south of Africa. Mm. And so I started off and, obviously welcomed him. And he's brilliant, he's a clever man. He was up at Oxford and doing great things. And then I moved to Africa and I said, Black Hawk Down has influenced your life, hasn't it? Mm. And he said, yes. And he was quite surprised. And I said, well, is Black Hawk Down, did that actually affect you and your choice not to go into Rwanda at the height of the genocide there? Mm-hmm. He said, I couldn't face another Black Hawk Down. And he just opened up it was just wonderful. And he loved and he had a wonderful relationship with Mandela. Yeah. So we here on the southern tip of Africa managed to do something that the others actually just didn't do and didn't know how to do it because they were
focused on...
Yes, indeed. Yes, wow. Indeed.
Someone, Pashle on Twitter says, Clement, wow, you have Jenny there in studio. I learned to read many books. I found the best place for ice cream in Joburg. And also that interview she did with pedophiles. To this day, I wonder how she recovered. Was it one of the toughest you did?
I think it was the one that made me grow up more than anything. And it was, you don't know. You get somebody on the air and they say they're going to talk about something, and then you get something totally different, but mesmerizing. And I think he was on the air for about 25 minutes. That's a long call.
That's a guest.
And I could see people lining up outside the studio because they were worried about me. They thought I might collapse and whatever, because he was talking about don't ever let your children go without you into a shopping centre. And even then, you've got to keep an eye on every single one of them, he said, because I'll be making contact with them. And it was absolutely... It was mesmerizing radio, and we went on until it was enough, and then that was that. And after that, I went to the toilet, and somebody came and sat in for me, and I actually threw up. And then I came back on air, and I realized when I got home that night that I needed psychological help.
How important is that psychological help when you do this job? When I started doing this job. when I had said yes and I asked for 2 weeks break before I can start it, someone said to me, "You're going to need a therapist." And I said, "Oh, please. I'm a big boy." And my goodness, I have never in my life been so down and so pushed down by the stuff I've dealt with on the show. Because you think, I'm facilitating a conversation, but it gets to you. And if you don't have an outlet, it's going to eventually really affect you and kill you.
I think it exhausts you.
It does.
So I think like that call of mine, which did go on for a long time. But you can have short calls, but you can have lots of them. So it accumulates on one show, and you are absolutely exhausted. And then you start thinking about it. You go home and you think about it, and you make yourself some supper. Or I don't think you cook at all, do you?
No,
or not well.
I've tried it.
Yeah,
I'm terrible at it.
But I do think that there are certain periods of time where you actually just need to debrief.
Yeah.
And it's really good to have the same person because you have a relationship with them.
Exactly. Normally I would just want to go home and sleep. And that's how I used to think I'm dealing with it. Go home, sleep. And I wonder what you deal with that complex of you want to save people as well. Because there are people who call in, there are people that are struggling. And sometimes certain things touch you and you think you can help. And you're not going to help everybody. So how did you navigate that? The need to, should I reach out and help? And yet you also don't want to cross that line. Like here I'm at work. And yes, I must deal with what comes with work. But you're not going to save the world.
No, you can't. And it's the calls that you get where somebody needs something so simple, like his house has been so badly built and, it's cracking up above and, just everything. And you just know, can I just get a house for him? Can I just pick up the phone and phone somebody and get them to get him a decent house, for God's sake?
Yeah.
Those things, I think, are simpler than physically getting involved, because then I think it becomes so overwhelming.
It is.
Because you don't know what you're going to be doing tomorrow.
True.
know?
Sure. Show me the mum. You were on television, and then what happened?
Well, I got a call. I don't know that I did it very well, because it's not, I wanted to do other things. But anyway, it was lots and lots of fun, and I'm glad I did the job, and George Mazarakis loved it, and et cetera, et cetera. But I got a call from one of the publishers that I work closely with, and he said, "You've got to choose. You've either got to be the mummy, or you've got to do books, Jenny."
And you chose books?
I chose books.
And you did it for just one season?
I did it for one season, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got so many calls. I've got so many WhatsApp voice notes. We'll get to them in a moment. But Abel, let's play another favorite song of Jenny's. Why don't we do Brenda Fassie? Trying to get Jenny to sing.
Never.
Turns out
Never.
she's not good at it. You can never go wrong with Brenda Fassie.
And also what we've forgotten is how radical that song was.
Yeah.
When it came out, she was talking. We didn't have a black president. I think Nelson Mandela was still imprisoned, and she was singing about my black president.
Yeah.
And I can remember listening to it and thinking, that girl's got balls.
Yeah.
I mean, she just had. She was just extraordinary.
Bali in Sandton, good morning.
Hi, Clement. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Hi, Jenny.
Is that my Mbali?
Yes, it is indeed.
Oh, Mbali. I miss you. I miss you.
I miss you so much, Jenny. Oh, my goodness. When I heard Clement throw forward this morning on Bongani's show, I just thought to myself I had to call in and just shower you with all the love that I possibly can. Jenny, you've been my inspiration, mentor for many, many years. I listened to you on 702. I followed you to Kaya FM. And now we work quite closely together. I won't say where.
But it is books. It is books. And what I want to ask you, now that you are speaking to about 1 million people, and they're listening to you in Bali, they never forget, of all the books that I have worked with you on, have you ever read any of them?
I have.
Which one?
I have. I read Ken Follett's.
That's okay. It's okay. I mean, he's made billions, so that's okay. And a second one?
No, I've only just done Ken Follett. That's quite a novel.
That's wonderful. So you guys are working together now. When you mentioned that you had a producer,
yes,
who's now into who you were not referring to Mbali, who's now working in the industry?
No.
That was Kate.
That was Kate Rogan.
Kate.
Yes.
I see.
So,
Mbali, that wonderful call. Thanks for calling, eh?
Thanks, Clement. Jenny, I love you so much. And let's meet soon for drinks.
Oh, good. And you've got a big expense account because I do know where you work. And we will do that lunch and we will do champagne and we will send it to you-know-who.
Yes, indeed. And I actually bumped into you-know-who this morning. So, yes, it's on record.
Okay. You guys have got to give us an idea. Eh? Who is that who?
Well, the surname is... No, I'll give you the first name, not the surname.
Yeah.
First name is Ryan. I'm not doing any more than that.
That's enough for me to
but
do my research.
He's Mr. Moneybags.
Okay.
So...
Okay, Mbali, thank you for calling. You said My Mbali. Did she produce for you?
No.
What did she do?
So I do a lot of work now for a very, very big financial company, and they have got a literary club. They've got a literary book club.
Okay.
And so I find authors for them. I make suggestions. I'm about to blow them out of the water with a suggestion of who they should spend their life savings on to bring to South Africa next year.
Okay.
And so I have a wonderful time.
The author that you want them to bring in?
I want them to bring an author.
This author. Oh.
That I think is going to be absolutely amazing. And I mean, they are contributing in wonderful ways to people reading, and it's all through their literary book club.
Vuyani in Soweto, hi.
I just want to say I just love her laughter. She's got this laugh. I don't know if someone's tickling her, or maybe she had wine before the show.
Tickling or wine? What is it, Jenny?
Well, probably both.
Yeah. And some of us, not everyone is a reader. And, she could probably do well as an English teacher, because not everyone reads those novels. And I had a teacher like that. And when they start laughing and you can see she's got the picture in her head, she's probably read this book 10 times over and over, but she still comes up with this and she takes everyone through. And it's such a wonderful experience. I really miss Jenny. All the best.
Beautiful, Vuyani. Thank you for the calling. What a wonderful message there. Do you read books more than once?
Yes, I do. In fact, I live in Parkhurst, and my bookshelves are so full, I just don't know where to turn. I mean, they're in the bathroom, they're in the loo, they're in everywhere. And so I get rid of them by giving them away to specific people and things. And I stand in front of the bookcase and I say, am I going to read that book a second time? However much I've loved it, am I going to read it again? And if the answer's no, then they go. Okay. So I'm about to do a lovely giveaway.
Great,
quite
I
soon.
need to pay you a visit soon then.
Well, you do. You'll get lost, but do.
Is there one? What's your most favorite book? One you have read twice. And I know. I asked you this question earlier.
You just can't.
What's the latest book you have read twice in recent time, in the last 2 years?
Look, I can tell you one book. There's my producer.
Oh, there's Gary. Okay.
There's a wonderful book at the moment that everybody will read. I know it's called something about homecoming, and I think that is. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm so excited to see Gary.
Yeah, he's going to come in now.
Oh, is he?
You're going to give him a big hug, yeah.
Oh, I am. I so am. And he doesn't live far away from me.
Is it?
So, we all live quite close to each other.
Oh, wow.
So
it's called Homecoming?
No, there's a really good book at Homecoming. And can you imagine this? Do I have time to... No, I don't. I was going to give you a scene. We're out of time.
Okay, you can't give us... You can't give us the scene. Okay. Anyway, I will still pay you a visit because I'd like to get a book. I've read Joanne Joseph's Children of Sugarcane twice.
Yes.
And I suspect I'm going to read it for the third time because I just can't get over it.
Well, you haven't read Justice Malala's book
And
yet.
then I'm going to read Justice, so I'll probably read that for the second time too. Jenny, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you so much for thinking of me. And to the people listening, they don't know how much they changed my life.
Wow.
Hanging out with Clement
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.